I'm your biggest fan, I'll follow you until you love me, Papa. Papa runs.
My name's Brandon and this is Cartoon Network Video Game History. 360, Wii, and the 3DS. Less than 1 week later, on November 18, the game made history as the first ever Cartoon Network game to grace the Wii U. Omniverse Omniverse was a launch game for the ill-fated console, following in Ben 10 Galactic Racing's footsteps, which was a PlayStation Vita launch title. It seems almost poetic that these two games would be launch titles for two of the most spectacular console failures in recent history. Review, managing to score it a 7 out of 10. I loved the last traditional Ben 10 game, Cosmic Destruction.
Bring it on! In Ben 10 Ultimate Alien Cosmic Destruction, the video game. Experience more playable characters than ever before. Never unleash the power of the Ultimatrix and fight epic new forces using ultimate alien abilities.
Would Omniverse really be a major step back for the series? To at least show some improvements. In my opinion, not only does Omniverse not iterate and improve on literally any of the aspects of previous Ben 10 games, but it also reverts back to having many of the issues that were removed. As you can see, Ben 10 Omniverse is another one of the typical 3D beat-em-ups we have become accustomed to for the series. This is the 5th time we've had a game like this, so the concept of making these games has basically become a cooking recipe at this point. Light and heavy attacks are actions while in your alien form would deplete a meter that would eventually become empty and force you to turn back into Ben. Cosmic Destruction removed this, and instead performing 2 or 3 special attacks will send you straight back to being Ben, and even the basic attacks knock your meter down significantly. Special attacks are a major part of this game too, because enemies are absolute sponges. Taking down any of the game's dull as hell enemies is an arduous process. Thing is, reverting back to Ben never seemed like that much of a disadvantage. Yeah, Ben's attacks do far less damage, but you never feel like you're in danger like you did in the other games. Instead of running for your life, once you turn back to Ben, you'll just keep on spamming attacks until your Omnitrix recharges. A Ben-only run of this game doesn't seem like it would be too hard to do. It would be tedious, yes, but you could do it with relative ease. Another annoying that stems from this is the fact that your Omnitrix doesn't passively recharge while you're in alien form. This means every time you finish a combat encounter, you're forced to switch back to Ben for 10 seconds before turning into an alien again. It's not the of the game, but it's just one more tedious thing to deal with. Outside of that, the combat just feels so much worse than Cosmic Destruction. If you watch that review, you'll remember that Cosmic Destruction introduced a free flow combat system that was reminiscent of the Batman Arkham games. This made fighting far more enjoyable, and it even employed a simple but effective parrying system. All of that has been gutted from Omniverse. So we're back to the unrefined and unsophisticated button mashing without any thought or care. Using specific aliens. As far as I could tell, basically every alien played the same. As you could imagine, the typical item pickups are once again on display here. Smashing enemies will restore your health, Omnitrix, and give you experience points. Each alien can be upgraded twice, unlocking access to new special moves that are stronger, or can deal simultaneous damage to more enemies. After you upgrade your favourite characters, don't even think about where you're spending your experience points. Before the end of the game, you'll have completely upgraded every single character, taking any need to think out of the equation. Alongside these upgrades, you'll also find special containers that hold items that upgrade your health and Omnitrix capacity. One thing that has been a staple in the Ben 10 games has been boss battles, usually against some of the show's biggest and most memorable villains. There are boss battles here, but they're never against anybody of note. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing. In fact, I've criticised games in the past for just cramming every single villain into the story for the sake of having a boss battle. However, in Omniverse, they felt so lackluster. Like, oh wow, I've just encountered a boss battle. Just usually provided something interesting to look at, but that really isn't the case here. The final boss battle against Malware was the only encounter that actually made me sit up and be engaged. And the sequel nobody asked for, Queen Ant 2. Every boss battle plays almost identically, and they are pathetically easy. Similarly, the enemies in this game are both dull and lack variety. There are 5 enemy types in this game. For context, this game is about 5 hours long. That means for 5 hours you are killing the same 5 things over and over, dozen of at the same time. The last major thing I need to mention about the gameplay is centered around Rook. Every mission you are accompanied by Rook to allow the game to be played start to finish in co-op. Now, this could be a really fun mode to play with a sibling or a friend, but in single player it actually hurts the game. It's quite clear to me that this game is entirely designed around the co-op elements, with single player being an afterthought. I'm not 100% sure, but it feels like enemies are such damage sponges because the game is designed around having 2 human controlled players at once. Rook was useless 99% of the time, but I imagine enemy hordes would have fallen a lot quicker if I had someone playing beside me. Not only is Rook unhelpful in the combat, but he also just ruins the flow of things. Are you trying to attack a boss with one of your limited use special attacks? Oops, Rook decided to jump in the way, which cancels out your attack, but still drains your meter. I was ready to jump into the game and strangle Rook to death. The amount of times he got completely in the way would have been nearing the thousands. It also bothered me that half of the things I picked up seemed to go to Rook. Like, nah dog, you really don't need any of that stuff. Rook would also routinely get himself stuck. Thankfully, the game respawns him if he's off screen for 10 seconds, but it was still tedious and hilariously bad. It's like the AI was designed to run in straight lines towards its destination, with no care for what is actually going on in the physical space surrounding it. The co-op stuff might have been fun with another person, but I sure as hell didn't enjoy it in single player. Narrative-wise, I think that didn't really utilise the time travel stuff as much as possible. The only time the concept really gets taken advantage of is in the final boss battle. Initially you take down Malware as a 16-year-old Ben, before taking Malware down as an 11-year-old Ben. Finally, both versions of Malware come together and you have to take it down for good. It's actually a pretty cool ending for what is a very underwhelming game. Graphically, the game is actually because previous games have had really meaty cutscenes where you get quite a bit of story. Considering the story idea behind this game, I would have loved if they had given themselves time to flesh it out. And lastly, I have to mention the environments. Just like the way limited enemies make the game feel repetitive, almost every environment here feels the same. I swear 90% of this game featured the same drab, futuristic lab setting. It gets old quickly, especially because
future and past collide, it's up to Ben 10 to save the day. Blast through time as young Ben and teen Ben in a fast-paced action game based on the new series Ben 10 Omniverse. Fight as new alien heroes like Feedback and Blocks, or play as classic favorites like Diamond Head and Accelerate. Play solo, or have a friend join in and play co-op as Ben's sidekick, Rook. Ben 10 Omniverse, the video game.
mostly just reskinned their first Ben 10 title. Yeah, game development is a lot more complex than that, but that's what this feels like. It feels like they developed this game in a bubble, ignoring what the other developers were doing with their games. I have no hesitation in saying that Ben 10 Omniverse is my least favourite of the 3D beat 'em up games so far.